and welcome to today's video on this 1987 2-litre Saab 900i. Tom has owned this car for a year now, having purchased it in March 2020. At the time he just needed an everyday car and he wanted something a little bit different, but something that was still a bit more practical and usable than some of the older classics. So he got it for a very reasonable price, so as you go around you might spot a few little bits and pieces that could do with a bit of attention, but overall the car's done really well and it's been a very usable little car. He has actually sold it now. He sold it a little while back, but we're just waiting for the new owner to arrange collection, which is obviously a little trickier at the minute given the restrictions, but I'm sure as soon as he gets it he'll love it just as much as we have. So yeah, now I'll just show you around the car. The first generation of Saab 900s, known as the Classic, were produced by Saab from 1978 until 1994. They were based on the Saab 99 chassis, but were given a longer front end to meet US frontal crash regulations. Because this particular car is a 1987 model, they had just undergone some minor cosmetic design changes that year, including restyling the front end and the bumpers so that they went from a vertical position to a more sloped angle. They were given a new grille, headlights and front side lights, as well as updated bumpers. The rest of the bodywork stayed the same though. Another change for 1987 was that power steering was added on the 900i's like this one, making it so nice to drive. At the time, Saab were predominantly working on their aeroplane business, so the car side of things was considered more of a hobby to them. Because of this, it meant that their cars were built really well as money wasn't such an issue, so they were made using thick steel, making them so safe and strong compared to most other cars on the market at the time. There are quite a few unusual design features on this car. As you can see, it's got a very curved windscreen that wraps around to give really good visibility. Obviously, because, like I mentioned, Saab predominantly manufactured aeroplanes, this is clearly where they got the design idea from, even though it would have cost them a lot more to produce such large curved screens for their cars. You might have also noticed, if you didn't already know, that there aren't any door sills. So the doors wrap around under the car, making a tight solid unit when the doors are closed, meaning if it were in an accident it would be a lot safer. It's quite a nice feature as well because the passengers can climb in and out without having to step over a ledge or catching their clothes. Plus it meant water and debris couldn't get in and cause the floors to rot if it collected there. I've always been so surprised at just how modern this car feels, given it's a 33-year-old car, so I've borrowed it from Tom on a few occasions as it's just so nice to drive. The seats are super comfy with plenty of room around you, and the seats are also automatically heated, which is perfect in the winter months. Because Saabs had to be suitable for Swedish temperatures, the heater always warms up so quickly too, and it's just really, really good. Another feature they're said to have taken from aeroplane design is the layout of the dashboard. Again, it curves round, which means that all the controls are easy to reach. Saab engineers chose the layout of the controls and gauges in the dashboard based on how often they would be used and their importance, so that the driver wouldn't need to look away from the road for long and wouldn't need to look far for what they need. Another quirky feature of the 900s was the position of the ignition key, in the centre underneath the handbrake. For one, this means that in an accident it's one less thing to hurt you if it were in front of you like in most other cars, but also because the car needs to be in reverse to remove the key, it means that the car will never roll back on you. Now I won't focus on the headlining for long, as this is the main thing visually that lets the car down. It's all been ripped out and ideally needs replacing, but Tom has priced this up in the past and worked out it would cost just more than the car was worth, unfortunately, so it didn't make sense sorting it out considering it's not really a necessity. The Saab 900 is a front-engined and front-wheel drive car. They have an inline 4-cylinder engine that's slanted at 45 degrees, double wishbone front suspension and beam axle rear suspension. The B engine was unusual as it was installed backwards, with power delivered from the crank at the front of the car and the transmission, which was technically a transaxle, bolted directly to the bottom of the engine to form the oil pan. So power from the crank is delivered out of the engine at the front, then transferred down and back into the transmission below through a set of chain-driven primary gears. I also have to show you the boot. It's absolutely massive. I've borrowed the car off Tom on a few occasions and always make really good use of the boot space, especially when my previous modern car was an MX-5, which I thought had a small boot until I bought my mini convertible, which it turns out is even smaller. So the Saab has saved me on quite a few occasions where I've had to move lots of stuff. So I think that pretty much covers everything. Overall, it's just a brilliant car and has served us really well, so it would be a shame to see it go, but I'm sure it will be enjoyed just as much by the new owner.
So thank you so much for watching my video on the Saab 900. I hope you've liked it, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, Car Art by Emily.